Welcome in, go Big 12 or go home. I'm Brandon Shanahan, joined as always by former Iowa broadcasting legend Drew Russell. Drew, we're live on a Tuesday night. How are we doing?
I'm doing great, Brandon Shanahan. It's 2026. If you're still saying Happy New Year, shame on you, because clearly we are well into this new year already. I had somebody tell me Happy New Year today, and I'm like, I'm
Interesting.
sorry. It is, the 13th of January?
Yeah, you get a week max. Week's pushing it.
Weeks push it. Larry David once said, I think it was January 3rd or 4th. He's like, that's when
that feels fair.
And I'm like,
you
can go to the 5th, 6th of work related, long weekend, which kind of that was the case this year for, all the bankers and, various government.
Yeah, I think it's once you go back to work. Once you're back working in the year 2026.
So I think this year, I would have been acceptable January 5th. I think the 5th this year, you're acceptable.
Yeah, and with the weekends, but when you're back at work, it's next year.
6 is
the holidays over.
And then after that, now if you still kind of want to ask if you haven't seen somebody in a month, hey, did you have a good Christmas holiday season? I think that question's still fairly in play.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen, now that question eventually is okay, that's a little old too. But
that's the same for any holiday.
Right. I mean,
asking how my Halloween was in late November.
Right. So I think there's that month pass. But when it comes to the new year, I think
Happy New Year.
The week tops, Brandon. I think that's
we're not close.
January 7. I'm gonna cut off at 7. I probably personally will just cut it off around the 4th. But so big shout out to all the employers that on an email on December 28th say, we'll talk to you next year.
Oh man.
Can't be shout out to that. Nothing wrong with that. Just saying.
I just left a job, so at the end of the year. So I was like, all right, I'll see you never, probably, most likely.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
remind everybody I know. Have you thought of the fact that you're never gonna see me again? Does that bug you at all? These people that I've sat next to you for the last 2 years. I went that.
There is so much truth to that, though. That you will go in the if you're in a workplace environment. You will go into the grind for years with these people. You might chat regularly, might text, call, hey, I need something. I mean, we're both in the media industry, Brandon. And you go to you feel like you're in the trenches with these people. And
we go to battle.
Yeah. And the moment you leave or they leave, you might never talk to them again. Maybe you have some random convos for the first month or two, either or of hey, what's going on at this place or whatnot. But oftentimes people just straight up ghost the work friends from the previous place.
And all of a sudden, 2 years later, you're like, hey, we want to start a Big 12 themed podcast.
Exactly. See, you and I kind of
that's the relationship.
You and I mean, because you and I met each other at work at an Iowa radio station. That's how Brandon and I met. And yeah, we stayed in touch. I mean, we definitely stayed in touch. Even now,
we're trauma bonded.
What?
We were bonded by our trauma.
We did. Brandon and I, honest to God, we would every day. Brandon would come in at 2:00, and we'd have our meeting with our on-air team, and then it would just be me and Brandon past 3, 3 through 6 for the on-air guys. And Brandon and I would legit just eavesdrop on various meetings of sales meetings or whatever, station events, and we just hear some of the ideas. And Brandon and I, let's just say, weren't ecstatic, and we were both just oh my gosh, Brandon and I trauma bonded to the point that we're still.
How many caring Christmas food drives are we gonna have to fucking do? Oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, how many severe weather action team events how many Labor Days at a county fair? Who knows? But I do know
how many days at the Guthrie County Fair.
Shout out Guthrie.
The Guthrie County Fair doesn't even last that long.
I know. Shout out Guthrie though. Guthrie Center.
We're being there as they set up the fair.
Yeah, it's next to it was the toilet area. It was the 4-H toilet area, and it was just me and the sanitary crew that first day. They're like, what are y'all doing out here? And I said,
we don't want to be here.
The fair. I didn't know any better. I was like, I'm covering the fair. And they're like, it doesn't really start till tomorrow. I'm like,
Oddly enough, you're the only one here for the fair.
yeah. It's like,
But we're glad you figured it out.
walking the fairgrounds. I'm like, well, I could go like for some lunch. There was nothing. Like nobody was open. So I was like, well, guess I got
Gotta hit the Stuart Casey's on the way in if you're gonna eat for those 3 hours.
good cases. But no, I mean, it just doesn't happen every day, like for us. But like for most people, like you might keep up a little bit. And there's a lot of people I've worked with. I mean, heck, even here in Missouri, Arkansas, but then Iowa, Minnesota too. And like I worked with them, we're talked on, and then like stopped working together, and like communication dead.
Yeah.
So stagnant.
Threw me a whole baby shower when my son was born. I'm never gonna see any of you people ever again. Whoops. Yeah. Especially moving out of state. I'm sure you can make it work, but I'll never be in Texas like that again.
That's what
they'll never be in central Nebraska, oddly enough.
You never know in life. Life's funky.
Never know.
And you just genuinely never know in life. But yeah, it's just interesting. But going back to just the games itself, the podcast itself, like what a world. College football playoffs been the heavy talked about effort. If you're looking from just the teams left, Indiana looks pretty freaking good. Miami learned to survive in advance. SEC's been terrible. Big 12 had a great bowl season outside of their lone CFP representative. It was just a abysmal performance offensively. Boy, Texas Tech hung there defensively, but offensively was disaster. And that's kind of just the generic breakdown of kind of what's happened for the last like 3 weeks. Is I think Big 12 bowl season went really well. Some really good wins across the board with BYU, Houston really headlining the two big ones for me. But at the end of the day, Brandon, Tech didn't get it done. And they lost to a good Oregon team, but I think the way they played offensively, just embarrassing. It really was absolutely embarrassing.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. What was more embarrassing for the conference as a whole? TCU getting beat up at 65-7 against Georgia, or Texas Tech on New Year's weekend? Or the weekend after, whatever weekend that was.
Oh, you mean this last year for Tech?
Yeah.
TCU still, Brandon. It's just because I think at the time I convinced myself that, they've got this QB. They've got I think it's just the way it happened. I mean, you had 21 million eyeballs on that game. 22.
It was the only thing going on in college football. And for the next 6 months or whatever that math comes out to, 8-9 months. And that's the last college football game we all watched.
Right. Because that was, because that was Sonny Dykes' first season. And he just completed year 4 at TCU. Mm-hmm. Is that correct? So that was 2022 season. Yeah, that adds up. And I just remember, I thought, hey, why not? And I mean, we already knew Texas and OU, I believe, already announced they were leaving the conference. Go to SEC, if my timeline is correct. So in that case, there's okay, we're fine. We can still make it as it felt like, hey, we win tonight.
Texas and Oklahoma didn't even make the conference championship game that year.
Right. And I think we're
going to be just fine without them.
Okay, we're going to be fine as a conference. We're going to be fine. TCU, we got some interesting brands.
Yeah.
And then whammy. Just devastation. They got destroyed by a great Georgia team. A really great Georgia team.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, no shame in losing to that Georgia team. The way they lost, though, just not even remotely competitive, was absolutely violent. So I got to go that, Brandon. But I'll say, too, with Texas Tech, they had a national championship level defense, in my opinion. That team, 1 through 11, that front seven was elite. And the secondary was pretty sharp for the majority of the season. And they got let down. Special teams wasn't great that game. And then offensively, again, didn't get it done. And I feel for Behren Morton. He did a lot of great stuff in his Texas Tech career. Brutal way to go out. Obviously, they've got a new transfer QB in Brendan Sorsby. Whether that works or not remains to be seen. But yeah, just brutal, considering how much investment, too, that Texas Tech roster was put in. They're not hiding it. They're spending plenty of NIL money to buy great players.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation because, it was on the lone stage for TCU, and we all remember that. because it was the last game of the year. And Texas Tech got to kind of hide in the midst of a bunch of games. If I was going to try to sell you that Texas Tech got the worst draw, it's not just that they got blown out by Oregon, but then Oregon went and got blown out even worse by Indiana the next week. Because at least you can look at that Georgia team, like that's an all-time Georgia team. We just looked the week before, TCU beat a really good Michigan team, the only team to beat J.J. McCarthy in a college football game in 2 full seasons, by the way. Now went like 34-1. And that one loss was against TCU, and they put up 700 yards or something crazy. So, I mean, they did have that. So if I'm going to sell you on that, I'm going to say, well, at least they won the playoff game. They beat a really good Michigan team. And then they lost to an all-time great team. Now, granted, the 65-7 is always going to be tough to sell. Because at least with Texas Tech, you're able to look like, okay, that's a championship level defense. The way that defense played, they kept Texas Tech into that game for a long time after they probably should have been dead. And then 65-7, it's like nothing's working. Offense, defense, special teams, coaching, nutrition. The shoelaces are coming untight, I'm sure. Like it's just a disaster all around. So it's a tough draw, but it's interesting because I feel like at TCU season, it felt worse at the end, but also had higher highs. Because I mean, that Michigan game that's still the only college football playoff game that the current Big 12 members, or I guess any Big 12 members, have won.
Yeah, which is, and that's a fair point, Brandon. On TCU, at least won a game for the conference. Like that's still the wildest thing about the CFP playoff era. Oklahoma made it quite a few times as a member of the Big 12. They weren't able to win once, which is
I think teams with a 17-point lead in the college football playoffs are like 30-2, and both of those losses are Oklahoma.
And they've had some good teams at OU.
They've had some crazy teams.
They had some crazy talented teams. Texas, hey, they have made the CFP as a member of the SEC, even won a game as a member of the SEC, but in the Big 12, they weren't able to make that accomplishment in just that 14 playoff era. And the Big 12 sent some good teams. Again, TCU was a great success story for the Big 12. And even though there are a couple members, Cincinnati made it, not as a Big 12 member, but they did make it. Like they do have those programs that have made it, but they cannot find a way to win. So you do have a great point that TCU at least got to win against a Michigan team that would win it the next year with J.J. McCarthy and a very talented defensive core on the other side of the ball. Yeah, you're onto something, Brandon. The more I think about it, it felt like Big 12, not an easy matchup against Oregon, but you get that win. It just feels like they're trending in the right direction. Like, you put the right investment in. Our top team did win a game against the second best team in the Big Ten this season. That's a good look. Even if they lose to Indiana, which they probably would have. I don't know if anybody's going to take them out. We'll see, I guess, with Miami. But there's no shame in that. It's like, well, their best team of the conference beat our best team. That's life.
Yeah, because it's another thing that if Oregon just turned out to be a wagon, and Oregon blew out Indiana, Oregon blows out Miami, wins the national championship. But that's not, out of those 4 semifinalists, Oregon was a clear number 4.
Yes. No question. So. I mean, it wasn't debatable. And I think that's what's tough for Tech. And we'll see what the Big 12 brings, I think, going forward, Brandon. Obviously, heavy coaching changes, which we discussed quite a bit in the last episode. Obviously, Colin Klein at K-State, Jimmy Rogers at Iowa State. There has been change. It's not going to be easy going forward in this conference. Like, can they find more consistent players? And I think Texas Tech is in great shape just from they are getting some great talent, a lot of it because of NIL. BYU has put themselves in a very healthy position. I think Arizona State keeping Kenny Dillingham around is a significant win for that program too. And then what other teams can make those jumps going forward? And I will keep an eye, especially on that Houston team. I think they've definitely they took a great jump last year. Can they take another one next year? What does Oklahoma State look like with a new coaching staff? Like, there's a lot of questions with the Big 12 right now, Brandon. There's a good chance Texas Tech is going to be a representative in the CFP again next year. There's still a lot to go. We have a lot of off-season stuff to get through. We have at least 12 games for them to play. But at the end of the day,
for sure.
But at the end of the day, what can they do in the CFP, and if they can make it, and can the regular season schedule be challenging enough? And again, at the end of the day, you want respect. You have to win those games in the CFP, but the train's already well off the rails, Brandon. I mean, you're seeing it with the SEC, Big Ten. I mean, they're going to have all the money going forward, and it will be interesting to see. Again, the train's off the rails, Brandon. It's already a pretty decent wreck already of what college football has become, and it's entertaining right now, but I just keep thinking sooner or later, like, these big boosters are giving money. They're sooner or later going to be like, is this even worth it anymore? I mean, honestly, they can't write tax. I don't think there's a way to get tax credits on this.
There's no like return on investment.
It's not outside of pretty much bragging rights, right? Like, hey, we are school beat yours. But man, if I burnt $5 million, you know, part of our NIL fund, and my team didn't win or like didn't even make the playoff, or even if they made the playoff, even if they won a game in the playoff, I don't even know if I'd be that happy. You know, it's like professional sports, it's different. I feel like it's infuriating, but like, you know, the players are going to get paid regardless. Like everybody gets paid. Like CFP, it's like, well, everybody kind of has these different numbers. I don't know. There's a lot, Brandon. There's still a lot that's going to have to be unraveled before we ever get to figure out this Rubik's Cube that's college football.
Yeah, I will say what the Big 12 has going for them is obviously if you just look at the college football playoff this year, it's so transfer portal heavy. The teams that have done well in the portal are the teams still standing. Indiana, obviously, a transfer portal vacuum. Same thing with Miami, with Carson Beck and all the transfers that they brought in. 5 of the top 25 transfer portal classes are Big 12 teams. And by the way, not even some of the names that you would expect. Obviously, Texas Tech's up there. BYU's up there at the 11th spot. Houston currently has a 6th transfer portal class on On3. And On3 does it interesting. They factor in not just who you bring in, but also who you lost.
Yep.
So even a team like Oklahoma State, who has brought in 40 different players, they're sitting on 22 because they also lost 59 in the transfer portal. So it's the overall composite of it. And they're still sitting at 22. I think they're going to be a much improved squad. Colorado's at 18. I'm not even sure I counted them. That might be 6 out of 25. West Virginia at 15. BYU at 11. Houston at 6. And then, of course, Texas Tech sitting there at number 1. They've done very well. Once again, so I think as far as competition-wise, they're going to be in good shape. It's just a matter of what does that top end of the conference look like, especially because we talk all the time. Like, the SEC and the Big Ten are in a different category than what the Big 12 does. But compared to the ACC, like, would you rather have, a 14-team league with 7 really good teams, or would you rather have a conference like the ACC where you get one team that's really good in Miami, they're competing for a national championship, and then falls off a cliff after that?
Yeah.
Like, what's going to be more beneficial down the road?
That's a great question, Brandon. And, you know, Miami's kind of an interesting program too, if you're just looking at them right now, because, I mean, they've been, by their standards, out in the wilderness for 20 plus years. I mean, the U has not scared anybody since the early thousands. They just haven't. Now, at one time, this was the most talent maybe out of any college football program in America came out of the University of Miami pretty much from the late 70s, early 80s, all the way through the the early thousands, in my opinion. Some incredible Hall of Fame players through that system. And it will be interesting to see as they move forward. I mean, they made a lot of money this run. ACC's already announced, like, all the money's Miami's. They won the games.
And that's an interesting choice as well.
That's kind of the ACC saying, hey, we'll take care of you if you win, but we kind of are expecting you to stay with us. That's the type of move they're saying, pretty much.
They're like, we're not going to get all this TV money, but if you do well on the field, then, you know, maybe you close that gap a little bit. Thinking more so they're talking to Clemson and Florida State, but they haven't done anything.
That's a problem.
But Miami gets to be the benefactor of it.
I mean, those schools are like, we want to go to the SEC or want SEC money potentially. I'm sure those conversations have been had in their athletic departments.
Like, how do we close that gap? And this is the way to do it.
The best way to do it is win, and more importantly, win at the right time. That's how you get these invites. It really is often, it's just time and place. It's kind of like jobs. It's like a lot of things in life. It can be about jobs, love, various like things where it's like, it's just right place, right time. I look at a lot of the conference realignment of the last 20 years, and a lot of it was just like Nebraska looked at their options, and Big Ten, they were looking to expand and add an extra couple of teams. And Nebraska was like, we're not sure we're all in on the Big 12 anymore. This Texas Longhorn network's kind of stupid. Feels like they're giving all the favor to them, maybe to OU a little bit. Yeah. You know what? We like this Big Ten network. Big Ten, of course, Nebraska, even despite all their disappointing seasons by their standards, they're still a big national brand. They still get huge.
Yeah, and that's such an interesting case because Nebraska, like fiscally and resource wise, are miles ahead of where they would have been had they stuck around the Big 12. But then it's like, well, does that really matter if you're not putting out the quality product on the field? That's what we're seeing with them. That's what I kind of thought we would see more so with Oklahoma and Texas going to the SEC, and Colorado, the same thing when they went to the Pac-12. Just like what, and Missouri is another example of this where they were in the mix in the Big 12 and the Big 12 North. If we can get past Nebraska, then we can get to the Big 12 championship. And they've been such a non-factor in the SEC. But again, fiscally, you get all this extra revenue. Texas A&M's the same way. They wouldn't be able to do what they've done resource-wise without the SEC money. It's just it's such an interesting case because of course the suits are going to be like, well, we've got to generate revenue, but then
right. And the only schools really I can make an argument that doesn't apply to win the right time. There's a few cases, but Oklahoma and Texas weren't. I'll say Texas. Oklahoma was still winning at a pretty consistent, high rate at their end of their Big 12 era.
Yeah.
But Texas sure wasn't winning at the rate that they're accustomed to. But when you generate high revenue, have a huge fan base, you are going to get certain looks. And I will also look at the Big Ten and how they viewed the two Los Angeles schools. USC, by their rate, definitely wasn't winning at the capacity they've been used to, say 20 years ago during the Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart, Pete Carroll teams. And UCLA, I mean, they've had some okay teams at times, but not great. But since they're in the second largest media market in the country, and
they get by.
They get by, and they do have some wealthy alum, but that's the reason they got in. And unfortunately for the Big Ten, I don't think it's panning out as great as they were hoping for in terms of heavy interest from those schools, from their fan bases. Like UCLA does not get good crowds. They haven't had a great product. They don't get good crowds at the Rose Bowl. And the Coliseum, I mean, it's semi-full, but not huge. And they're not winning at a high enough clip. But
the whole selling point with those two schools is that you come in and you get these marquee matchups, USC and Michigan, then you factor in Oregon and Ohio State, like that. Those are supposed to be heavyweight battles, but now the conferences have gotten so big. It's like you don't get as many of those as you might have wanted, and the TV ratings suffered because of that. Or meanwhile, the SEC, they've been very selective about who they've added the last expansion cycle, and that's why they're able to curate these great matchups on a regular basis. Is that all their heavy hitters continue to hit, and of course they're inflated by rankings or whatever, and that SEC bias is real, and that's a benefit for them. But it's also one of the perks of not adding so many schools that aren't great draws across the country.
And I'm happy you brought up kind of those premier matchups, because yes, on paper, and even on paper, these were good matchups. Oregon, Ohio State, or Oregon, Penn State, I'll go with that game this year, was a genuinely great matchup. It delivered on a product. They went double overtime. Wonderful game on a Saturday night football. What's fascinating about those type of games, I would say college sports at its root, one of the special things about it is everybody within your own fan base if you're from the area. But not just that, you oftentimes know people who cheer for a rival school or a school, multiple schools within your region. So a game like Penn State, Oregon is an outstanding game between two traditional, really good football programs. The problem is people in Pennsylvania are not going to find a lot of Oregon fans just randomly around, and vice versa. Now, you can go on to Twitter, you can go on to message boards, because Lord knows Brandon and I will troll those on a Saturday night after a game.
That's right.
And yes,
love a good hate scroll.
Oh, nothing like it, ladies and gentlemen. But you still, that's cool. But there's something about going into an office on Monday morning, going to a pickup basketball game and seeing your friend, if I, as an Iowa State fan, seeing a friend who, is Kansas fan, K-State fan, and you get to rub it in and you won, or you have to hear it when you lost. I think that's part of the fun of college sports, because there's mutual interest of whether you love the team or hate the team, you're more invested in them, because it's your friends are invested in them. Your family might be invested in certain teams. For people with, families, like in-laws or all that, you kind of start to get invested in those teams too. That's just the core of college sports. And the problem with UCLA, Michigan, USC, Michigan is a great game. But the problem is, and not that people don't know each other's fan bases, but it's just not people you run into as much on a regular basis. And for the Big Ten, ACC, and Big 12, I've talked about Big 12 has some great programs I have a ton of respect for. I have a ton of respect for Central Florida. Being from Midwest my entire life, I have still never met on a personal level one Central Florida fan. Now, if I go to Orlando, Florida, I have no doubt I can meet many. But just in my home area, I don't know any. So when Iowa State plays UCF, it's a great game. It's a fascinating game on the field. But there isn't that fun camaraderie off the field of getting to share that with people you know. I think that still matters in the world of college sports. And I think that, and bowl games, it's different. You get those big matchups of, hey, we got Miami. We've got, Indiana this year. And that's great. I think that's the beauty of it, is these matchups you'd never think of are finally happening. Or dream matchups 20 years ago, USC and Texas. Holy cow. What a dream scenario. Two huge fan bases, historic programs. One of these teams is going to be viewed as if USC wins, they're an all-time dynasty. Texas wins, this is one of the best teams in college football history. What a matchup. And those games are great. But if they're in the same conference, I mean, it's still, there's luster to that game. There's a lot of energy, but I don't know. It's just not as much. So rant over, Brandon. You didn't need to hear all that. Listeners didn't need to hear all that. But I mean, that's how I feel. I just think it's important to know. That's what makes rivalries great, is, why is, Nebraska versus Iowa a pretty good little rivalry right now? Because you do oftentimes in Omaha and Des Moines, all that, no Nebraska fans, no Iowa fans. Nebraska, Iowa State, I never viewed as a rivalry. I know a lot of Nebraska fans, including yourself, Brandon. Naturally, when they played, even though Nebraska beat us 97% of the time, there was still an interest of I'm going to follow Nebraska football more. And I still do, but not to the extent I did when we were in the same conference, because we don't play each other at all anymore. So that stuff matters to me still. Football and sports, college sports, are where they're at because they are. But I just hope that for Big 12, ACC, Big 10 even, just because they are coast to coast too, regional games really, really matter. And that's the one thing the SEC, I give them a ton of credit on. In general, they've been able to stay in the Southeast. And that is huge, because those alumni bases, they are talking all the time. They'll see each other all the time. That's how you get some of that camaraderie and interest right there.
Well, and we talk about the revenue gap. I mean, so much of that is TV, and here's a slate from the Big Ten mid-November where you're supposed to be getting your best games. Imagine if I'm selling this to you as a TV network. We have Minnesota, Oregon, Michigan, Northwestern, yuck. Indiana, Wisconsin, yuck. Iowa, USC, okay. Penn State, Michigan State, yuck. Again, in a great year, different, but that game was on CBS, mind you. That was one of their premier matchups. If I'm CBS, I'm like, boy, that's kind of a goose egg for what we're paying the Big Ten for. And then Maryland, Illinois, all right. Purdue, Washington, okay. UCLA and Ohio State. That game again on NBC. NBC's paying a lot of money for the Big Ten, and that's what they get in mid-November. It's going to be interesting to see how that revenue gap continues to play out. Because if I'm NBC, I'm like, these are the games that you're giving me in mid-November. You're giving me UCLA, Ohio State. UCLA's not made. It's a 38-point game. I'm CBS. Okay, well, we have ended up being a 6-win Penn State team beating Michigan State by 3 touchdowns. Like, that's not very valuable.
No, it's not, Brandon. And again, like the SEC, like with their additions, Oklahoma, Alabama has some juice still. Like, because I thought it's still regional enough.
Yeah.
And they're too historic.
Can you get the benefit of the doubt?
Yeah. Texas LSU. It's a great game. Like, it's regional enough that it doesn't.
Even in those down years, like those are 2 premier college football brands.
And that's the thing is, like, USC is like a premier brand. USC Penn State on paper is as good as those 2 other games. No question. Like, if you just look at the history. But weirdly, during the regular season, I just don't have as much interest because I'm like, that's just not a natural, maybe historically, maybe a rivalry, but like, it's not. Yeah. Like, maybe they see each other in bowl games or whatever. I think that's where it's fun. Like, this just makes no sense from a regional standpoint. And again, from like, Iowa State fan, talking about the randomness of certain teams, of, why it's fun. Again, from an Arkansas fan standpoint, and shout out to me for picking the worst teams in terms of heartbreak, ladies and gentlemen. But like Arkansas fan, look, I do know a lot of OU fans, which I know is Big 12, former Big 12. I do. Same with Mizzou, again, former Big 12, but I do know them. I know a decent amount of Mississippi fans, Mississippi State fans, LSU, Bama, I know, Auburn fans, I know. Tennessee, like a lot of these fan bases I know, and a lot of them just in my local area, like home area of the Southwest Northwest Arc. Those fans exist, and they might be from those areas that decide to migrate to this area. Like, that stuff matters, ladies and gentlemen. Like, it really does. So I don't know. That's my rant, Brandon. Yeah, we could talk a while on it, but yeah, it is just a unique kind of case for college sports. Been a unique state for a lot of years now. It only continues to get more unique. I mean, we could talk Washington QB, that ruckus transfer. I mean, there's so much we could break down. Yeah. That's not Big 12, but again, there's a lot that probably in future episodes, Brandon and I will definitely touch more and more.
Yeah, it is Big 12 hoop season. I don't know if you caught up with it, but it's Big 12 hoop season. We are officially into Big 12 play. Everybody's played 3 games by now. The 3 teams left 3-0. Arizona, Iowa State, BYU, and Houston, a combined 32-2 overall. Absolute wagons. The 4 that you kind of expected to be at the front of the race. Then a great big glob of 2-1 and 1-2 teams. And some of the typical contenders that you'd expect at 0-3, Utah and Kansas State. Cincinnati, maybe not so much, but then Baylor sitting there at 0-3 and a tough game coming up here for them as well. But I mean, they're sitting at 10-5. They can rebound. But what have your thoughts been so far in this basketball season?
Yeah, I mean, oftentimes, Brandon, it feels like the Big 12 is just, I mean, it's a dog-eat-dog world where you have all these good teams. It kind of cannibalized itself throughout the regular season. For a lot of years, Kansas would somehow survive that cannibalization every single year with their remarkable winning streak of Big 12 regular season titles. What really stands out to me, two things. One, I'm going to talk Kansas. Absolutely. Kansas being 1-2 in the league right now is still pretty wild to me. And Brandon, they could easily be 0-3 in conference play. It took a 15-point comeback win with 3 minutes to go against TCU at home to avoid being upset. Otherwise, they'd be 0-3 in conference right now. Iowa State, number 2 in the country, goes there tonight. I'm terrified. Like, I wouldn't be stunned at all if KU wins.
Always a scary spot.
Oh, terrible. It's scary, beyond scary. But Iowa State's a favorite at Allen Fieldhouse, which is just mind-numbing to me. First time ever that Iowa State is a favorite for basketball going into Allen Fieldhouse, which is incredible. There's no other way to put it. So I think that stand out to me. And then there genuinely right now, it feels like there are just classes, no question, already just 3 games in the conference season, clear classes of where we are with our Big 12 teams. And you mentioned it, 62-2 combined between Arizona, Iowa State, BYU, Houston. I'll even throw Texas Tech in there a little bit, but that's, I think, that top 4 of those teams. I think that's a clear first class right now. Like, there's no doubt they are clearly premier programs in this league. And then I think you go to kind of your second, your business class. I think Texas Tech is really good. They could escalate to first class, but your business class is a Texas Tech. I would also throw in, I'll throw UCF in right now. They get that win over Kansas. They're 13-2. They might be still closer to coach, but I'll throw them in there for right now. And I think also Colorado isn't in Kansas. I will still throw in business class for Kansas. But again, I think that's something that can transition pretty quick, whether up or down as I point a certain way. Then you kind of go to kind of more your coach, Brandon, and not bad teams. I thought Oklahoma State, I think, is an improved team compared to the last couple of years. I liked what I saw in Ames, despite the loss on Saturday. But then you kind of have that with them. I think with TCU, they're not bad. If they don't blow that game against Kansas, you're like 12-4. They're solidified business class, but they're in coach right now. West Virginia, I think, is in coach. They're not bad. They're still kind of trying to figure things out this season. Arizona State, kind of on the edge, but they're kind of the beginning of just baggage claim is what I'm just going to put that final group in. And again, baggage claim, Baylor, I still think they're better than their 0-3 record. They've had some tough games so far. I mean, they had to already played Iowa State and Houston. So I'm going to maybe even keep them in coach. But boy, Kansas State, Cincinnati, Utah, bad by Big 12 standards. Maybe good teams in the other conferences are decent teams, but bad by those conference standards. And I think Cincinnati fans are fed up. I think Utah, it's just is what it is. But boy, I've got to say, I've been fascinated by that K-State basketball program the last few years because Jerome Tang had them going his first couple of seasons there. Like, they were solid. They were good. And then the wheels have absolutely fallen off. And look, Brandon, I think they just kind of overscheduled a little bit again. And they've played BYU and Arizona to start league season, but not too competitive. Really, their only decent win, Mississippi State. Honestly, Mississippi State, maybe Cal. That's it. They've had a tough schedule, but that's it. So that's kind of my classes right now. It's obviously a lot of games to go, but it does feel like those top 4, granted, a lot of games, but man, they've all got some ridiculous talent across the board.
So now I feel like a lot of that sentiment, especially the cannibalization, we talk a lot in football as well. But with basketball, like those top tiers, or that top tier still feels like a national championship caliber tier. Like, if you tell me at the end of the season any one of those 4 teams wins the national championship, I wouldn't be shocked. I don't know if football has that. Football definitely doesn't have that same type of depth. Are those 4 teams like genuine national championship contenders, or is there a special, you get to the airport as a secret entrance kind of tier?
Yeah, no, I understand kind of what you're saying there, Brandon. I think when you look at a national championship contender standpoint, I mean, Arizona, no question, I think is a national championship contender team. They have played a really good schedule and they've been able to win at a consistent pace. After that, it's kind of tough. I think Houston is always going to be a national championship contender, at least the next couple of years. They're good, Brandon. They're deep. They're thorough, even despite losing a couple of All-American players last couple of years. They're still good. And then kind of the two teams that's like, they still don't have enough sustained success for me. And yes, one of them's my team. Iowa State's awesome. Like, they're great this year. Best start in school history. Number 2 in the country. I'm praying Arizona loses once just so I can see that beautiful number 1 next to Cyclone Nation.
Oh, man.
It would be incredible. But look, I still have doubts. I mean, they were only a second-round team in the NCAA tournament last year. They still have not made a Final Four since 1944. And yes, like, you can say, well, this team is different, all that. I'm not disagreeing. Like, it's a good team, but there's too much season to go. And then same with BYU. BYU is great. AJ's awesome. I love that freshman. I love that team. They shoot the rock at a great rate. They have 3-4 guys who can legitimately score the basketball at an incredible rate. Richie Saunders, Robert Wright. I mean, they're a good team, Brandon. Same thing as Iowa State. It's like the historical success tells me I don't have enough yet for national championship contender. Even though they are in the top 10, I need to see a little bit more from those teams. But I think 2, I feel pretty comfortable already in Arizona and Houston.
I'm right there with you. That feels like a good tier system. Yeah, it feels like they got a secret entrance at the airport kind of thing.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Like the ceiling feels a little bit higher with them, and maybe Iowa State can get up there. It feels like at some point Iowa State's going to break through, and there's so much with Iowa State and BYU in particular where it's like you can do whatever you want in January and February, but I got to see something in March. And I don't know if there's anything I can see between now and then that would really change that outlook.
Yeah, and I know like the other week, football analyst Joe Klatt made a pretty big rousing effort of how he hates the NCAA tournament. Says what a terrible way to pick a champion, and received some decent backlash. And it's true. Like, it sometimes is tough to see regular season not as rewarded as much as you would like in the world of college basketball. But at the same time, I think that's what makes the tournament really special that's the definition of a pressure cooker. And you see what a team's mettle is made of when their back is against the wall. And I think for a team like Iowa State and BYU, they definitely have the talent to go Final Four. I don't think I'm not going to debate that. But that's the thing. People genuinely only care, for the most part, what happens in March. And again, regular season championships are, to me, the most impressive thing. They're more impressed to me than the conference tournament. Conference tournaments, you get hot for a week. I know Iowa State might be mad at me. I don't care. Like, I'm impressed what you do over 2 months. Like, you go win the league. That's amazing. But again, at the end of the day, you can do that. You do the conference tournament thing. You lose second round of the weekend tournament, like, just like, oh, that's kind of disappointing. Like, we had all this fun momentum and then we just lose randomly. But I think that's why it makes it so special. And you do have those stories that come out of nowhere where you're talking about Doug Edert playing for the Peacocks and St. Peter's. And you're like, Insta Doug and LinkedIn Doug. Like, those are the type of stories you love. But there are some great players, Brandon. Again, I think with AJ, one guy I really do like JT Top and at Texas Tech. He's been great all season long. Joshua Jefferson, Iowa State's been fantastic. So just consistency around the board. I think one of the fascinating things for me is that Arizona's leading scorer is only averaging 14.8 points per game, Brandon, in Koa Pete. But they've got such good depth across the board where they have got 5 different guys in double figure scoring. So it's consistency. And that's been what's been so special about the Wildcats.
In a busy slate this week, and there's one game I want to talk about, but obviously some heavy hitters tonight, Iowa State and Kansas. That's always going to be fun. Even if Kansas turns out to be as down as they have been, that's never a fun thing to go into. Later on this week, Texas Tech in action against Utah, BYU, TCU. We'll see if TCU has any ounce of real in them. But Friday is the one I wanted to hit on, Baylor and Kansas, because one of those teams has to lose that game. And Kansas State, a home underdog tonight. That's a tough draw. And even Baylor goes up to Stillwater tonight. So that's not a gimme by any stretch of the imagination. Winning on the road in this league is tough. as is, but by Friday, one of those teams is going to be already behind the eight ball quite a bit. Which one of those teams are you the most concerned about, and which team would have that game mean more?
Yeah, I'll say Kansas at home. And it is just, again, Brandon, they lose tonight. They're 1-3 in conference play. Now, if they win, they're 2-2. You just beat a previously undefeated Iowa State. Vibes will be completely different on Friday. So I think a lot of it will be based on tonight's contest of kind of that energy for them. And I think for Baylor, again, if they find a way to take care of their business tonight at Oklahoma State, that's the game I think would be more devastating for them, is if they can't beat Okie State. Great, a much improved Oklahoma State team, and they can definitely beat Baylor. No doubt about it, especially on their home floor. But I will say Kansas, again, Darren Peterson's awesome. Like, this kid can really light it up. He's a blast. But again, that injury bug has been no joke. And unfortunately, from Kansas standards, the talent is obvious. It's still there. They've got plenty of talent, but not,
Yeah.
I think, the maybe great to all-time talent that, frankly, you're accustomed to seeing Kansas teams be at. They've got some good players, a couple great, including Peterson, but they're not as, they're scary, but they're not like as scary. And I think I've noticed that the last 5 seasons. Of course, people can crack the jokes that, well, finally, the other teams should start paying their players and they're all that. I'm like, I don't even care about that. I'm just like, I think the playing field got leveled a little bit, one, but two, like, in this era, kids want to play. That's across all sports. And, like, if you're a freshman, a lot of times it was Bill Self could say, hey, you're going to sit underneath. We'll get you 10 minutes, 15 minutes a game as a freshman, but you're going to play underneath our All-Americans. You're going to learn from them in practice. You'll get your turn come junior, senior. That's not how it works anymore. Kids want to play no matter what, and they're willing to take the risk to do that. And I think for Kansas, they haven't had enough guys consistently stick around for 4 years that are, it's not the old school NCAA, and that's how it is. So seeing a guy stick around a school for 4 years that's a good to great player is awesome. And again, I think that's been the difference so far this season. That could change tonight, but like Iowa State, they have a young man, Tamin Lipsey, who's a 4-year starter. He's been great for 4 years at Iowa State. Just a guy that they can build a program around. In Kansas, I just feel like doesn't have that 4-year guy that they can build a program around right now.
I love it. Well, in the heart of Big 12 hoop season, obviously the landscape of college football continuing to change. So we'll not run out of content to talk about during the off season once we get into the heart of basketball season. That's all I had. Any final thoughts, any final takeaways, any words of wisdom from Drew Russell?
Well, I'll just say this. I think from a basketball standpoint, this conference continues to deliver a great product every single night. I give the Big 12 a lot of credit for all the TV deals they've been able to bring in, TV revenue. Not easy, though, ladies and gentlemen, to have a lot of different services at your disposal, between ESPN family of networks, potentially Fox, CBS, NBC, Peacock. Not that it's not impossible to navigate, but not easy either. And for people's wallets, granted, it's done. And if people watch, they're going to keep doing it. But man, for all, just any sports league, make your games as accessible as possible. People will watch. You let them watch. You build lifelong fandoms. You'll get revenue sooner or later. That's guaranteed. That's all I got, Brandon.